He hit the ground on Wednesday. We were expecting him at exactly 5 p.m., but he came 20 minutes earlier. We're talking about the one and only Pope Francis, who is in Kenya for the first time and Africa for the first time. Powerful moment for Kenya, a very redefining moment. Welcome to Friday with Mr. B. Of course, it's Friday today. Mr. B, it's a great honor indeed to have this man. The one man who is regarded as the most powerful president in the world, U.S. President Barack Obama, came to the country. And it was all about the beast, the power. But Kenya saw another man come to this country in the most modest possible way.
Yes.
Driven in a Honda, humble, yet he was able to bring millions of Kenyans together. Your perspective, what was your perspective? What was your take of this man?
My take is that it's summarized in a statement that was made many times by Julius Nyerere, but I think he was quoting somebody, that the power of principle will overcome power principle.
Principle and power. The power of principle will overcome
principle power. That means there is a power that I am strong, I must drive in the beast, I must show pomp. Yeah? There is the power of military behind that. For you to feel that power, you feel so because you have military might behind you. Like in case of Barack Obama. But there's other leader, the power of humility, the power of principle, is another most powerful. And that's why somebody said that the power of that principle will overcome all these other powers, the powers of fighter jets, the power of gun, powder.
Absolutely.
And that was a wonderful contrast, that we must yield to this other power. That is the power Jesus stood for. And you could see a very simple person shaking the whole world up to today, 2,000 years plus, using that power of principle.
Power of principle.
Yeah.
Of course, when he came in, he gave a national address at State House.
Yes.
Very powerful indeed. And of course, yesterday, a massive, he led a massive gathering in a mass at the University of Nairobi and different places that he went to. What are the key outstanding moments that you would pick out and say, these are moments we need to remember as Kenyans?
Yes. First, we need to remember that those people came voluntarily. Nobody goaded them, nobody pushed them. It was voluntary. It is what the hearts of those people who came decided to do, and they did. Because they started to get there at 3 a.m.
And it was pounding. The rain was pounding.
I tend to think that we come early because we are here about 6. But they came at 3. And when I looked at, the crowd, the people who are there, the lesson you learn is that power coming from the heart, from conscience, from moral authority, that is the real power. And of course, Pope was able to mention a number of things in his speech. He talked about interreligious tolerance. interreligious cooperation, need for friendships, and you can see that when you think that God is only with you, and you create a fence around you, and your friends,
Exactly.
and then you say, God, you are also inside, but you are not out there. What this Pope is trying to say is that when we say God is omnipresent, He is present in all places at the same time, it means you cannot put Him into a fence. He has to remain free. And it's God's responsibility to know how He deals with the Muslims, how He deals with the Hindus, and how He will judge the world. But it's not ourselves to have that judgment that, oh, that is not the proper religion, that is not proper this, unless you use His standards as a way of judging an event, yeah. But even then, we know we are still not God.
We are not God. And something that also caught my attention, of course, when you're looking at a really pluralistic society like Kenya, definitely there will be a challenge with the different religious organizations.
Yes.
But then that dialogue is very important. What really also caught my attention was the fact that he was also very aware of what had happened in Kenya,
Yes.
mentioning Westgate,
Yeah.
what happened in Mandera and the different Garissa.
Yeah.
And he was able to say, you know what, we need to also take care of the young people. And I found the Mass at the University of Nairobi very symbolical and very, it brought out the point that, you know what, we are here because these are the young people who at the end up being radicalized.
Yes. He is very, very concerned about young people. For instance, in Kenya, 65% of our population is below 35 years of age. So the reality is that this is a youthful nation. And not being aware of that hard fact is what will lead us to live in a kind of illusion, we older people. And to give them a priority in terms of their training about, he talked about inclusive type of economy. And many people don't understand inclusive economy, what it means. It means that you cannot pursue endlessly just idea of profit and aggressive capitalism. You have to say that all the resources we have is for the good of everybody. It is not for my good to dominate through the power of economy, but it is an opportunity God has given me to empower all these millions of other people using that money that He has given me. It is understanding that even when you are a very wealthy person, a billionaire, your investment was very small compared with what the public have given you in buying. If it's a car you are selling or any goods, those people out there are part of that wealth because they have given you more money. And many people we read invested even $1,000 to start with. Yeah? And because of all those people who have given you money because of this product. And he has given you that mental ability to come with that innovation. You didn't create it and you plugged in your head. You just found it.
Sure.
So it's acknowledgement that what you have, God has played a major part, and the people have
The
played.
people as well
Yeah.
play a key role. And of
Yes.
course, it was actually something that the Pope also mentioned.
Yes.
The place of rampant materialism and
Yeah.
greed
Yeah.
that literally ends
Yeah.
up to now
Yeah.
the breeding of corruption in the society.
Yeah. I think you remember in some of our talking here, we had mentioned that when you start worshipping material, that I am what I am because I have. And this is why somebody said to be is more important than to have. Because to be is that humanity. To have is that outside things that don't necessarily belong to the innate value of your being, the wellness in you. And yet, that material out there, you are using it to define your dignity. Which means if you don't have that material,
You sort of lose your dignity.
you lose your dignity. And I have found people, there are people who commit suicide just because they have lost all the money. Because that's what was defining their being. And so when he tells us to be very wary of this material worship, and that is what has dominated Kenya. But at the end of the day, it alienates very many people and they become poor. So for you to feel, I have this money, but I must invest it back to the society. That is key.
That is key. Of course, let me just stray a bit. Of course, by the time we were hitting Wednesday, the president had taken some massive, moves to reshuffling the whole of, the state departments. And it was very sad that there were two PSs, the Ministry of East African Community and ICT, who were left out from the new list. And we got elders from their community coming in to say that their sons have been sacked because of their connection. And you begin to wonder, there is materialism, there is greed that leads to corruption, yet as communities we are not willing to accept when one of our own is dealt with in a particular way. We are out there to protect our own. How do we move away from that, looking at what really the Pope is talking about?
Yes. I think how we have to move out of that is first to understand that position is also not real.
The position of entitlement,
Like
of
now,
authority.
like
as a
now,
PS.
I say, because that guy or that lady, like the PS for devolution,
The cabinet secretary.
is a Kikuyu. So, because she has now gotten out, we Kikuyus, we feel very bad.
Our daughter has been.
Yeah. And there are people who are feeling that way. But you have to stop thinking that way. Probably she has never met me. And I'm senior in the media. Yet I'm a Kikuyu. I don't know what motivates her to do what she does. We have never sat down. How does it happen suddenly that I'm now talking that she is good just because she is a Kikuyu? One does not become good or bad because of ethnicity. You are Taita and I'm a Kikuyu. And I can say we are great friends and we work very well. And I appreciate. But when I go to Taita, I just see people of God, people who are carriers of God's image. When I go to, like we went with you in Kisumu, that diversity is what excites me. That God did not create a monolith. Because, myself as a very creative person, I would have been very bored by this world.
Wow,
but when I go to Nyanza and I see their energy and the way they dance and and I go to your place and find this pretty humble.
Yeah.
They represent another very exciting side. Wow. Then I go to Northeastern. Very aggressive people in business, very hard and strong. And that also tells me something very good about Kenya.
Absolutely.
And so we must start to look at this diversity as very healthy for Kenya, but is not basis for discrimination of anyone. For instance, during the time of President Jomo Kenyatta, and the people used to say, you Kikuyus you are the one who gets everything, so forth. I used to feel very bad because I used to spend most of the time, at home because I didn't have school fees.
Yet there are people who are saying because the president is from your community, he's favoring you.
And then I used to ask myself, why then am I at home?
And I'm part of the community.
Lacking school fees. And I told one guy that the fact the president is from there, I've not gotten school fees. And this is what people must understand, that it will not mean when you go to prison, you don't find also Kikuyu majority in prison.
Different people.
Yeah?
Different people.
It doesn't, those are very, very deceptive things. And those are the things we must kill.
Sure.
If a person, let him face justice. If there is injustice, all of us suffer.
Sure.
If there is corruption, all of us suffer. Because corruption only joins up those people from all the communities who are corrupt and who are powerful because they have stolen money from the public. And if you look carefully, you see every tribe
is represented.
Absolutely.
So no one can lock themselves out of the
And the people
equation.
who are marginalized by corruption and who are poor, people who are in slums, you find us all the communities. You are Taita, you are
Taitas in Kibra as well, in Mathare.
There are Kikuyus in Kibra.
Sure.
There are Kambas in Kibra.
The whole Kenyan society is represented.
So let's not be carried by those are very deceptive approaches.
Absolutely. Just before we wind up, I just noticed something very interesting during the meeting yesterday, the mass that the pontiff led, with 1 million turning up.
Yes.
Have we ever seen such a moment in the country? 1 million people.
Yes.
And something interesting is there was no collection of offering.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking.
Yes. How
That is something.
how pastors in Kenya were feeling. What a loss of a moment. Wapi kikapu?
That was a powerful point.
I think I probably, if I were a Catholic, let me put it that way, I would have been saying, now we would have raised, say, 1 million people. Even if a guy gave only 20 bob, and there are some who give 100,
1,000.
even 1,000.
That's a
We
lot
are
of
talking
money.
of 50 million. What a loss of a moment. Yeah. But that, I think Pope wanted to crush that serpent of materialism. The culture that worships money like Kenya, he didn't want to play that chord of guitar of corruption.
Wow.
But the other important thing you remember is climate change.
Oh, yes. In fact, we want to come back and talk about some of the very key things that the pontiff spoke about. Of course, we've spoken about the place of interreligious dialogue, the place of materialism and greed. There are also very key aspects of his talk that we'd want to focus on immediately after this break, so don't go away. We'll be right back.